Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5554 and Rob.
I know. We have to have him follow us around all the time.
Totally.
And the great Teresa Kennedy is in the studio
live. I just have to say that the anti-Martian views of the guests and/or hosts do not reflect the views of the station.
That is correct, or the show.
It's just so funny, like that. When he said that, it just reminded me of that cartoon.
Gosh, okay. So I am a cartoon character today.
Yes.
As always. But
it was Bugs Bunny, yes.
One of the things that we talk about on the
you with my
whatever
guy.
But
We've completely digressed again.
Miss Teresa Kennedy, as we can't get her to. I want a big old snort. That's I want to.
That's going to be rough if you've just tuned in.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm sure
definitely want the snort right there.
I have a question for you about the pool stuff. Because we are also looking at a pool. Do you relocate or will you move trees that are like young trees, not massive trees, but we have a tree that we planted like 3 years ago, I think, and it's now probably about 20 foot tall, 15 foot tall, right around there.
Short answer is we can, and in given situations, it just depends on, will it survive? There's no guarantee that it'll survive,
Sure.
depending upon what time of the year that you do it.
Gotcha.
So, obviously...
Does that ever come up? I mean, is that people ask that, or do they just normally get rid of them?
Not a lot.
Not a lot? No.
They're like, get the pool in, get rid of the trees, let's go forward.
Well, and in most cases, it's because if you've got a deciduous tree around, it's going to be, dropping stuff in the pool constantly.
Right.
So,
especially pine trees.
Yeah. And see, what we do with our projects is, for me, once again, coming back to this lifestyle thing, it's all about what you see. So clean lines all the way around the pool surface is really important. And where I'm going with this is normally most pools have the big round skimmer box, the big plastic lid that sits in the middle of your deck.
Yeah.
And you pull the basket over. We actually don't have those. So your deck is pristine all the way around.
Oh, that's cool.
And so we have a different way of going about filtering the surface, the 18 inches of surface water in the pool. And so it's to minimize the amount of debris that's falling in the pool from outside sources is really helpful. And obviously, you can't control all of that because neighbors' trees are going to blow into the pool.
Oh, yeah.
The more we can limit it around the immediate area is really helpful.
And, before I ask Teresa Kennedy a question I want to ask one more from you. Safety around the pool. I can't stand what I've seen with a lot of pools, unfortunately, that have these big old, sort of like, surroundings that have all these glass or mesh enclosures that go all around the pool. I actually saw one the other day that actually looked like almost had like a webbing that went on top of the pool. What do you have safety-wise? Because, I've got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. That's important to me that when we're not in the pool,
huge.
Or someone's not in there, safety is considered.
Absolutely huge. And you know what? For a lot of people, it's the 500-pound gorilla in the room. They don't want to talk about that, and it's really important that you do. Excuse me. And safety starts with the parents right off the bat. Make sure that you're teaching your kids to swim at a very, very early age, getting them used to being around water and understanding the dangers of it. The next thing is let's start inside the house. There needs to be an alarm inside. So when that door is open, there's an alarm that goes off immediately. The next thing is the next layer would be to put up something, if you don't want that perimeter or that barrier around your beautiful pool, your beautiful outdoor environment, is to have something that's temporary, can be set in place until the kids have reached a certain age, and then they're allowed to go into the pool area, and then it can be removed and holes plugged up in the deck area. So there's all sorts of different levels of pool cover, like you've just talked about. There's the trampoline style one,
right?
And then there's automated covers. They're quite a bit more expensive.
Right.
People tend to go in that direction, and it's anything that you can do to prevent the drowning is not too much.
Gotcha. I thoroughly agree. And, Teresa, coming back to you a little bit, we've been talking about outdoor living, and you obviously deal in the market up in the Woodlands where you're stationed, but not only the Woodlands, you do business all over the place, in which outdoor living, as we talked about, is a very big selling point and something that a lot of your buyers are actually seeking out there right now.
It is a huge selling point because, being in the Woodlands, Montgomery, Conroe, Spring area, the walking trails, everything's outdoor. We have the outdoor, Market Street shopping now. So what I'm seeing, not only with just pools, but I'm seeing clients put in the outdoor kitchen without a swimming pool. And they go all out, just like Brett was saying, and we were talking about with the stove, microwave, refrigerator, ice maker, TVs, ceiling fans. I mean, they are putting almost as much money in their patio outdoor living as they are their pools. And especially in the luxury market, you have to have that nowadays, that outdoor kitchen. In fact, a lot of the new construction in the 500,000 and up, they're doing that. They're putting the outdoor kitchen as part of the whole, and the outdoor fireplace.
I do have
Fire
a question
pit.
in this zone, and I kind of brought it up to you yesterday at the event when we were talking about this. I live in a very middle range housing. I don't live in a $500,000 house yet.
We're getting you there.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm working on it. And if my wife has anything to do with it, it'll be a lot sooner than I want. But anyway, if I put in a pool that was $100,000, I would be the only house in the neighborhood, that it was in my price range.
Yeah.
It would be unrealistic. So how do you address managing putting in a pool or an outdoor living thing that still doesn't blow you out of the comp prices for your house? If you intend to sell it at some point, you're way out of the range of the normal houses in the neighborhood.
All of these things are really important to discuss prior to getting going. And so becomes that first meeting. Content of that conversation is really going to drive, we all have things that we want, but are just slightly out of our reach just for the moment. Some people like to phase things because of their budget, but the other thing is you've got to be cognizant of the area that you live in and property values around you. If you don't intend on moving, and in some situations people don't, that's it. We don't want to move anymore, and we're here, and we don't care. And so they are willing to spend a little bit more. But then there's others like, well, we just don't know how long we're going to be here. Well, if that's the case, we need to sit down and design something that's not going to you're not going to overcapitalize on the house and get into something that you're not going to get your money back. And it's you could Teresa can probably address this better than I can. It's a question that does come up. What sells pools and with houses? What sells houses? And I don't have the answer to that, but in my experience, I see that just having an outdoor environment really doesn't help, especially in this city.
Oh, for sure. I was going to say, even in the medium household pool, you don't even have to have the hot tub spa to get it sold. I mean, buyers just want a pool. And one thing that I was seeing a couple of years ago, and we're not now because we're in a seller's market, a lot of new construction clients of mine that were, a lot of relocation, they were putting pools in, and they were actually upside down because the value wasn't there yet, and they put in $80,000 pools, and they could not afford to sell their home. And now the market is so amazing; it's just night and day. You can buy new construction, put a pool in, and then you can sell it and get a lot of that value back, depending on what area you're in.
Is there a percentage range of the house
How
that
much?
you can say,
Okay.
When we're talking about installs after?
It's more of I think a dollar value, and if you've got the landscaping, the hot tub, the pool, you're looking about 15 to 20, depending on the size and how big it is. In some of the luxury, you're talking some, 25,000 value, maybe even 30 if you've got the outdoor kitchen and everything else. It just really depends. Now, prices have gone up so much that it's adding even more value. It does. There's a huge difference with homes that don't have and homes that do, what you can sell for.
To pull this back, just to change directions,
Sure.
go back to what Teresa was saying just a little while ago about outdoor kitchens and that kind of thing.
All right, now we've entered into selfie mode. None of us are listening to you now. We're just taking pictures.
You
have my
look out
attention.
the window and have a coffee.
In rare form, I'm the one listening.
We get a little sidetracked, especially when I'm here.
We're down to
I'm
3
like,
minutes, so we got to get as much out of them as we can now.
Guess which hand I have, the piece of candy in.
Well, it worked.
My right or my left?
Real quickly, Chris, we were talking just a moment ago about.
He was finishing a thought.
He was finishing a thought.
Oh,
first,
really?
though.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Wait,
Yes,
what?
not
Really?
me.
Okay,
Brett was.
Go ahead and finish that thought there, Brett.
That really was distracting, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it really was attractive.
Right. No, really. I was going to mention was to embellish upon what Teresa had just said about outdoor kitchens. In a lot of cases, these guys, especially oil execs, I mean, they're in and out of the country, and they want to be able to come home and sit down and relax. And what is important to them, and in a lot of cases, is the sports. And it's being able to sit in that spa and lean back and watch the TV.
Wow.
Watch what's going
Fire
on.
pits.
And so I find that what we're doing is we're actually is really working on that, designing the space that complements that kind of a lifestyle, to be able to sit out there and also to be able to entertain. Ice machines, outdoor refrigerators, all of these kinds of things. I have a client right at the moment with a very large project on Lake Houston in Kingwood. Excuse me. And he wanted an actual wood fired stove. So
Wow.
we've put all that kind of, we can do whatever they want.
A wood fire stove. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
We are down to the last 2 minutes of the show, and I want to make sure that we have time that everybody knows how to get a hold of you, to get a hold of you both. So let's jump into that real quick. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to get a consultation, that type of thing, what's the process?
Probably one of the easiest things would just be to go onto our website, which is www.downunderpools.com. That's DOWNUNDAPOOLS. Or they can email me at admin@downunderinc.com, or they can give me a call, which is 281-236-4344, and I'd be happy to sit down and do a brief discussion over the phone and talk about the scope of your project and go from there.
And every show we end it with Teresa's tips or Teresa's great quote of the day, but we actually have Teresa to say that. What is the great quote of the day?
This is from Joel Osteen's Ministries, and we have to realize that we can become someone's miracle. Look around at who God has put in your life, because you may be their miracle. And you can reach me at 281-799-3927 or thekennedyteam.net.
Until next week!
Have a great week.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank,
I'm
he's
Dean.
Dean, and I'm Sammy.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
So tune in to the Really